Welcome in, everyone. This is our weekly flow and chart setup. Um, Today we have two targets we're going to go over. We're going to go over Uber and RIOT. A couple weeks off, obviously, we came off mega cap earnings, so swinging over earnings, something I don't like doing. So this is our first one back for a while. So let's get started here. We're going to go over the flow alerts, go over the flow feed, go over kind of the charting and some potential contracts you could use. And also, I do want to let everybody know Unusual Whales is running a sale right now. You can get 15% off if you're making a new account, 20% off if you upgrade. I will drop the link there. This is good until February 17th, I want to say. So let's get started here. And again, I have other videos on how I actually pull this data too, so just try to make it quick and easy for everybody. So first up, we have Uber. So we have the repeated hits on the 315.72.5 call. So here's your flow alert, 218K premium. That's pretty significant premium, decent size there. Looking at the contract here, you can see this is where the whale entered. You can see the ask side volume, all that. And one thing I like to do, obviously, check how much this volume turns into open interest Monday morning. So that is that entry of the whale right there. And you can always just click on this too if you want to dig deeper, and it's going to pull it up. And obviously you can see here's some of the size that came in there, some more of the size there. Just so that's your flow alert there. So coming back here, let's pull up the flow here. And I could have kept that in the other file, but I like to kind of have two open. So let me move over to my flow alerts watch list here. So looking at the overall Uber flow here, and again, you can always adjust your filters how you want here. I have kind of predefined ones. I do adjust pretty much for every different stock just because based off market cap and all that. So, but kind of taking a quick glance here at and I do not have days expiration hidden, which if you want to hide that, I like to kind of keep everything on there. You can always come down here and switch the hide expired trades there. So this is what we have here. Obviously seen some bid side calls a little earlier in the morning, so this could have been I'm gonna assume, just kind of looking at this, probably some position closures here. So, and also little bearish flow alert there. So what's sticking out to me here is here's our flow alert for the 72.5 call. We also have a shorter term one for next week. We have this whale is obviously buying to open something. You can see that based on the size compared to the open interest. So this is a new position being opened. And a nice thing with Unusual Whales, you can just click right on the multi-leg tab there. It's going to tell you here, and it looks like it'll kind of give you some strategies that it could be. And the other thing is, if you kind of don't know what the strategies are, you can just click right on the profit calculator here. Come down here, and it's going to tell you it's probably a call debit spread. And you can easily see, I like to switch it over to the profit loss just to kind of, it makes it a little easier. But you can see obviously this whale wants the stock to go up. So that's a way you can check multi-leg trades just to kind of get the direction if you don't know what they are off the top of your head. So closing that there. So that's our flow feed. Now let's look at the chart here. So that's one thing I like to do. I always like to check the flow first and then pull it over to the charts and match it up with the charts. So here is our Uber chart. And I'll show everybody how I drew this out here. I'm going to delete these out. So obviously, just a quick glance at the chart. Obviously, you have the 200-day moving average coming up, 50-day coming up. So looking at this, and I'm a big trend line person. I like trend lines. So come down here, easily draw this up a little bit. Actually, come over here a little bit more. So I'm trying to make this channel that I assume there. You can always adjust it. I like to kind of get as much data as possible. So here's that channel here. So this would be that channel going back to April 2023. And then obviously you can see we're testing the top of that right now, and it looks like we're bouncing there. My other spot I saw too, so coming back to October of 2023, draw this up and come in a little bit here. You can obviously see we're in a really good spot here, taking out that low, taking out this low, taking out these lows. This is going to be a really key spot at this 67.86 spot. I have 67.86 marked on my little note tab over here. So yeah, I mean, we're in this channel, or we broke out of that channel on good volume here. We just had earnings, which you can see they beat earnings, beat revenue. And you have your technical, or your 200-day moving average, 50-day moving average coming up. You're following this little uptrend going back to October, and you're following this longer term or you broke out of the longer term channel to the top there, and it looks like you're retesting there. So the flow alert, let me go back to the flow alert. So 34 days, this is a little longer term. So what I would like to do with this one, and pull my Google up here. So I have it marked off here already. So, and I'm going to pull it out to the 4 hour so everybody can see. So here we are, here's your bottom, pretty good bottom. You can see we're hitting there. And this line I have drawn here, move it back to the day actually. So obviously you can see from a day standpoint, you got good support here, and we're obviously following this uptrend. So bumping it down to the 4 hour, and with the whales still being, so whales out of the money too. That's one thing I like to look at. 34 days out, 72.5 call. So I'm not gonna just hop in. I'm gonna look for a discounted entry, and kind of looking at that here. Obviously, you have big buying volume there, some more buying volume there, and obviously you can see that volume was increasing before earnings as well. So looking at I'd look, excuse me, I would be looking for an entry at 67.86 here, and let's see, I'm gonna look at the 315s here, so 34 days out. So we have good open interest here, and if we triggered at 67.86, I would obviously look at that 70 or 72.5 call. You want that good open interest. You want to be able to exit your trade. And looking over here, you look at the 70. Obviously, it's going to be a little different here just because we're not at our spot. But looking at that good delta, about 0.60, really low theta there as well, and even out of the money. Looking at that, 45, very low theta. So that is one thing to look at there. So I would give this, I would give this until the 14th to trigger. So that would be a couple days here, Wednesday. Obviously, I'll touch on this at the end, but we have a big macro data week coming up. So obviously I would wait for, so idea is good until 214. My risk is 20% on this. A little slower mover. Uber's a little slower of a mover. Not as much as our next target that we'll be touching on, but obviously 214 is the trigger. It's good until 214, unless we make a big run to the upside, obviously. And when I say a big run to the upside, I'd like to say kind of use a little common sense. I mean, if we make a 3-4% move to the run, or a run to the upside, the idea would be invalid. And I'll try to put notes out too for that. So that's Uber. So targeting the 315, 70, 72, 5 contracts at 67.86, given until 214 to trigger, risk is 20%. So let's move on to Riot now. Let's go back to unusual whales. So Riot. So we have repeated hits, ascending fill, and that just means, I can show it right here. You can see as the fills were coming in, the fill's going up, it's not decreasing. So you can see earlier ones were 141, obviously 142. So whale could be taken as maybe a little more aggressive possibly. So, and these are on the 315.16 calls, 134K of premium, 947 on size. These are 11% out of the money. So let's take a look at the whale here. So here is your whale. You can see that 142 average fill there, and it looks like they hit 156, but it doesn't look like they might have taken that much off the table here. If some of this is some mid-side fills and stuff, could be a little profit taking, can't tell for sure. Best thing to do in the morning, obviously, see how much of that volume carries over into open interest. So that is your entry on the Riot whale. And obviously you can see its ask side volume here, bid side. Another good thing to look at is the multi-leg percentage. I don't like a lot of multi-leg trades just because it can be confusing. You can always come down here and take a peek too. I have all the filters on, but you can easily just slide over and you can kind of see what it was for that day as well too. So let me exit out of that. And let's look at the flow feed for Riot here. And obviously you can see Riot was up 11% on 2.9. Crypto's making a good run right now, so obviously keep your eyes on crypto, on that market, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all that. See if that's still making a push up. That can help with your thesis on the trade. So looking at the flow feed here, and let's just see how much I got. So 25,000. And I like to do 60 days here for day trades. I like to do 30 days. So looking at the flow feed here, obviously we got these 12 calls for next week coming in, a little over 50K premium, 14 calls, 35K for next week. Got some 12 calls here for 30 days out, a little over 70K premium, 14 calls here, 34K. Looks like somebody is rolling something here, or let's take a peek. Looks like a roll to me, and you can always just come check the profit calculator again. And it's nice for a lot of the people that watch my videos. My internet's usually really, really slow, so this is really nice for me, and I didn't want to jinx it at the beginning. So yeah, okay. So quick touching on this, like this is a multi-leg one. I would ignore just because it confusing. Don't need to dig into it. If it's not there, I'm not going to try to assume or guess. So that flow I would ignore there. So yeah. So back to what I was quick saying. Yeah, my internet's usually really slow and everything takes a while to load. So I'm really happy with how this video is going so far. So yeah, you can see that. I mean, the flow's primarily bullish here. The flow alert on the 16 call for 315 that was highlighted earlier. Some more flow there. And usually with this, I'd like to see how much Bitcoin actually ran, or not Bitcoin, Riot ran that day, and kind of see how much of a move of the contract made. But you can see a lot of these contracts are coming in close to the end of the day here. And a lot of them are short-term contracts as well, too. So if these were all coming in at like 10 or 11 in the morning, I would kind of come over to the chart and pull up Riot here. Come over to the chart and kind of dig in and see how much is going on. But let's look at the Riot chart here. So that was your flow alert there. Flow feed is bullish. And we're looking at the Riot chart here. And another thing, obviously, you can see earnings are coming up on Riot. 32 days for earnings. Gives enough time for these contracts to make a move, in my opinion. So looking at the chart, obviously we're following the uptrend here, coming back to December of 2022. And obviously you can see this little downtrend here. It looks like we're gonna come up for that here at about 1653 would be the test. And looking at the moving averages, looks like the 50 is about to tap on the 200. So, and again, just because of moving average is something that's just little data points, I like to combine multiple data points. So, also looking at the chart here, two gaps on Riot right here from 1361 down to 1305. And we have another lower gap here from 1178 to the uptrend there at 1138, 1142 ish. So this is a very slow mover. Obviously, you can see we get a $1.50 move. That's an 11% move in the day. That's huge. So with this one and the flow being a little longer term, if the crypto market keeps moving up, to me that's a good sign for the idea. I do want a discounted entry just because it's a slower of a mover, and I like an entry almost at this gap fill, but a little bit before just in case it doesn't fill the gap. I like 1326 here, and I will show everybody why. Let me pop this in here. So it's going to be 1325, but looking at the chart here, obviously it would get us pretty close to our gap fill, and even looking at the gap fill here, so if we did fill the gap and we got in early, and it's still a 1% drop and a 14 cent move. That's the one downside about playing these slower movers is you can get stopped out a little quicker. So just be cautious about that. So looking at this spot though, so the 13, 25, 26 spot, good support here. Obviously, you see we rocketed up there, failed there, but gap up there, big gap there, and you can see the buying volume there too. That volume is really, really heavy. And even on these downturns, you can see the volume decreasing. So one thing to look at. So back to the 1325 line, good spot, bounce, and you can see that volume picked up there as well. Failed there, but we still had some good buying volume there. You can see the rise in the buying volume. Pulling the chart out again, bounce, oops, another bounce there, and we bounced up there as well. So that's kind of why I'm looking at that 1325 spot. We're not going to get that full gap fill, but this is something that obviously looks good. And just kind of looking at the overall chart, it's not a horrible chart, sitting in that uptrend back from December 2022. So now looking at, so we got that 1325.26 fill at that entry, and obviously strong daily support here in day chart for those that are wondering. Support, 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 support. So 1325. So looking at the contracts, so let me pull it up here, and of course I have it marked already, make it a little easier for everyone. So looking at the 315, so 34 days here, and if we had an entry at 1326, I would either look at this 14 call or the 15 call, and again, reasons why. Look at that delta, you have a strong delta, really low theta, and with a slow mover like this to end time on the contracts, they're not going to drop as fast, which is good for those who are not trying to stop out. And obviously low theta there. Looking at the 15, so out of money, still a good delta, still really low theta. So that is, and I'd give this again until 214 to trigger. My risk is 20%. Obviously, unless we have a big gap up on Monday or a big run up on Monday, that's kind of what I'm looking at there. So those are two ideas there. So one more thing I do want to touch on too with the swings. So this week, obviously, little lighter day on Monday, CPI on Tuesday, which will be major. We have retail sales on Thursday and some manufacturing data mixed in there, and Friday PPI and consumer sentiment. So just keep that in mind when you're opening swings. Not a bad idea. You can treat these as day trade ideas as well too if they did trigger here and you got a good run. Otherwise, yeah, just another quick reminder: Unusual Whales is running their sale 15% off, and I can just pull that up here actually. So yeah, here's our sale right here till February 17th. You get 15% off or 20% off when you upgrade. I will drop the link in the description below. Otherwise, have a great weekend, everyone. Try to get this out a little earlier just because the Super Bowl's tomorrow. A lot of people might not want to chart on Super Bowl Sunday. So have a great weekend, everyone.